One of your jobs as a supervisor is to listen to workers' concerns and see that they're properly addressed. If your team knows that you take their feedback seriously, they'll be more open with you, more satisfied in their jobs, and more loyal to the company. Let's look at some typical situations and figure out the best ways to handle them. A worker comes to you with an issue about her payslip. Payroll isn't your area, so you're not quite sure how to answer her question. You could go ask payroll department and then try to explain their answer to her, or you could advise her to talk to payroll directly so she can get their response firsthand. What would be the best way to handle it? She came to you because she's comfortable asking you as her supervisor. She may not feel comfortable talking to payroll. As a supervisor, you're the main communication channel between workers and management. If workers find that you don't respond to their feedback, then they'll stop giving it to you. Worker morale will suffer, and the company will end up overlooking important issues that need to be solved. Handling feedback is more than just repeating what workers say to your manager. You'll need to decide how to handle different types of feedback. There are 3 types: suggestions, complaints, and grievances. Which type of feedback do you think is the most urgent? Success as a supervisor means getting the best work out of your team. You encourage good work and correct poor performance. Both positive and critical feedback are essential for developing worker skills. But too much criticism can discourage workers and turn them against you. How you give feedback will decide whether it helps or hinders your team's performance. Let's say one worker isn't meeting quality expectations. You often point out the issues with his work, but it keeps happening. Lately, he's getting defensive when you bring it up. You've just found the same mistake again. Should you speak with him now, or save it for his upcoming performance review, or give him space to improve on his own? He won't improve if you leave him alone or save the feedback till months later. But constant critical feedback can challenge workers' sense of competence and demotivate them. When delivered poorly, it can damage the relationship between you and the worker, making them less likely to pay attention to you. When you need to give critical feedback, do it as soon as possible after the problem happens. But it takes more than just telling them what they're doing wrong. Providing feedback is a two-way communication process that helps you find out what you need to do to improve the situation. You decide to talk to him about why he keeps making the mistake. How should you bring it up? Conflict is an unavoidable part of work. People have different goals and needs, and sometimes they clash. This doesn't have to be a bad thing. When you resolve a conflict well, you can deal with the hidden problems that it brings to the surface. But conflict can also be damaging. If you don't handle it effectively, it can grow into personal dislike. Teamwork can break down, and some of your team might even end up leaving. Your role as a supervisor is not just to resolve conflict, but to ensure that team members feel respected and understood. Your focus should be on behaving respectfully, to understand both sides, and insisting that others do the same. Let's say that your team has lost a few experienced workers recently, and they've been replaced with inexperienced workers. It means you'll have to get your best workers to train the new workers. When you announce the changes, one of the older workers grumbles about it. Afterward, you notice that she spent hardly any time training the new workers. So the new workers aren't learning, and their work is slow and full of errors. It seems as though she's intentionally ignoring them to make your training plan fail. What should you do? Bullying and harassment cause major problems in the workplace. This lesson will help you recognize these behaviors and take action to stop them. Let's say you're a line supervisor in a factory. You've worked there for a few years and you get good results. But the factory is having difficulty meeting orders, so a new production manager is brought in. The new production manager is known to be a hard-driving type who can get results. On the first day, he singles out your line for quality issues. Finding a rejected piece, he loudly points out every flaw. You're humiliated in front of everyone, but you resolve to try harder. The next day, he finds another small issue and announces it to everyone. It seems like he never misses a chance to make you look bad. You start to dread each day at work. When you ask him not to yell at you, he calls you a wimp and tells you to get used to it. You complain to HR, and they tell you they'll look into it, but they remind you that he was hired for his ability to get results. The next day, the production manager announces that someone has been complaining to the bosses about him. He points you out as the rat in the room. By now, it's obvious that he's picking on you, but your colleagues don't speak up for fear that they'll become the next target. To get back at you, he moves experienced workers off your line, making your job harder. He increases your workload without recording your overtime. The abuse weighs on your mind, even after work. You lose sleep. Your family's telling you that you're not yourself anymore and urge you to quit. But by now you're so beaten down that you doubt you could find a decent job again. You've become a target of workplace bullying. It's not just tough management like HR thought. But what's the difference? Your success as a supervisor is measured on how well your team meets its targets. But it's not enough just to keep the machines running smoothly. You need to get the best work out of your team every day. So a key part of your job is to keep up your team's morale and motivate them to do their best, especially when things get difficult. Let's say your factory's in peak season. Your team's been working overtime, but they're falling behind on targets, and error rates are high. Today, 5 workers called in sick, which is strange, and it's going to make things even harder. What do you think might be going on here? It could just be an illness, but it's more likely a sign of low morale. Under these conditions, it's very easy for your team to get demoralized. Demoralized workers work slower, make more mistakes, call in sick more frequently, become irritable and sensitive to criticism, deal poorly with issues in their personal and work lives, and are prone to quitting. When morale is high, your team can be more productive, with better quality, less absenteeism, and a stronger commitment to the team. Maintaining morale starts with recognizing the signs and conditions that lead to low morale. One of the first jobs of a supervisor's day is the pre-shift meeting. It's a time to gather your team to prepare them for the day's work. Let's say your meetings aren't going that well. They last too long, and your team seems bored and don't contribute. It seems like they understand, but you usually end up having to re-explain everything anyway. Some of your team is asking if they could have the meeting a couple of times a week instead to save time. What should you do? These meetings are an important start to your team's shift, and they set the tone for the day. You need the meetings to share important information, like shift details, previous day's issues, and any updates from management. When workers know what to expect in their shifts, they'll be more focused. They need motivation and support to work efficiently and meet targets as a team. And to find out any problems workers are having, you'll need to listen to their feedback and questions. Let's see how you can do this. In your pre-shift meeting, you have a lot of information to cover in a short amount of time, so you need to use your time efficiently. Which of the following is not one of the 3 pieces of information to include in the meeting? Line supervisors spend their time on the factory floor observing workers, so they can be the first to see and correct safety issues. As a supervisor, it's your job to know all safety procedures and make sure everyone follows them. If you see unsafe behavior, you can act to make sure your work area is safe for all employees. Your key responsibilities are to identify and control hazards, inform and train workers on health and safety procedures, provide safety supervision to correct unsafe behaviors, and investigate incidents to prevent reoccurrence. Let's see what's involved in each of these jobs. Health and safety hazards exist in every workplace. Hazardous materials, unsafe equipment, disorganized working environment, and unaware people can lead to accidents. But which of these is a key factor in almost all accidents? Unsafe employee behaviors in the workplace are a key factor in up to 95% of all workplace accidents. People take shortcuts, avoid wearing protective equipment, and get tired or distracted. These human hazards can appear at any time, and supervisors are the ones best able to recognize and control these hazards.